She's using all of her courage right now.
I'm actually from the fan site Cosmopolis Film, and we've been following the film since, January 2011 when somebody signed on. But this is for David. We were watching the movie, and we loved it. And the scene with Benno and Eric, when it looks almost like a confessional. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. Is that accurate? When Benno's on one side and Eric's on the other, and Benno has this long speech, and the way that you shot it, it felt like a confessional almost. I didn't know if I got that right.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, the scene as written in the book basically has the two guys just sitting across from each other at a table. And of course, we had this wonderful set, and part of what we like to do is to see what choreography, what movement, where people sit and how they change positions, and it indicates a shift of power and psychology and all kinds of things. So I wanted everybody to really move around the set and use it, and so we blocked it, and it was by accident that we came across that configuration with.
It just happened.
Yeah, it just really happened, but we knew immediately. Yes, it's like a priest and a penitent. It is like a confessional, and at that moment, that is exactly the power structure between the two of them. At that moment, Eric has the upper hand and is listening to the confession of Benno. It reverses later. It kind of reverses. But at that moment, visually, it struck me that it worked as well to sort of help the audience understand that was where the power structure was at that particular moment. So you're quite right.
Thank you.
But it's not the book. At least that way.
Burn.
Hi everybody. I just wanted to say I really love the movie, and I know I'm a little bit young, but I actually did try and follow along, and I thought you did a really great job, all of you guys. And my question's for Rob. So I was writing after working with David Cronenberg. How's your take on acting changed? Because I know you were a little hesitant with taking this role. So do you feel like it's changed it at all, or like from previous times?
Yeah, I mean, well, a little bit. I don't know. I mean... yeah, it definitely gave me some more confidence, because, I can kind of... Basically, doing a movie where if a whole bunch of people who can criticize me for being in the Twilight movies, if like a lot of people who criticize me, in terms of being film enthusiasts, they'd have to criticize their entire appreciation of film to criticize this. They'd have to, for them, anyone who appreciates film is going to like David's movies. Not necessarily like them, but have to appreciate them. And so, no
argument for me. I like that, and I think it's quite accurate. I'll tell you, a lot of movies are desperate to be loved, and a lot of people in the movies are desperate to be loved, and that's why a lot of actors will not play a role they think is unsympathetic or shows them in an unflattering light. And to me, that's a certain kind of white bread movie making, basically confection. It's a consumer item. But if you're making interesting, tough stuff that's challenging, likable isn't everything. In fact, sometimes it's counterproductive. So I'm not afraid to make movies that are not likable, but as long as they're not boring and they're not uninteresting, to me that's a huge amount, because most movies are both of those things.
The script had some interesting quirks of language. A few of the characters use the royal we at times, and there seems to be a use of this as opposed to that. There's just a few language quirks. I was wondering if that came from the book, or if the royal we was something that you used sort of to emphasize something about the characters.
Is that a question?
Yes. What the royal we was.
The question about characters using we in reference to themselves, some of the language.
Oh yeah. Well, the language is great. You know, I mean, this is Dawn's. It's sort of, we talk about Pinter, we talk about Pinteresque dialogue because Harold Pinter writes language that is the way English people speak, but it's also very stylized, and the commas and the punctuation and the slightly eccentric use of pronouns and stuff is really huge and makes a big difference to what he says and how he writes. And DeLillo is the same. You know, his stylized dialogue is fantastic, and that's one of the reasons that I say the dialogue in the movie follows the book really rigorously and kind of religiously because of that. You know, just as Rob said, there's a, you know, in the book and in the script, he uses the word "what" without a question mark, and that's tricky. It's different from "what." It's "what." Anyway, you see it a lot in the movie.
It's a punctuation, using words as punctuation as well.
So we were very excited by that and very sensitive to that and the meaning of that, and we really wanted to honor that, because one of the things that was exciting for us about the project was this dialogue has never been spoken before, because Don's never had a movie made of his books, and so this was the first time we were going to hear actors actually speak his dialogue. So we were very careful about, you know, honoring it.
Hi. This is for David and also for the rest of the actors. I read on the Toronto Standard that you don't do rehearsals. And I was wondering why you don't do rehearsals and how that affects the actors that you don't do rehearsals.
Disaster.
It made Paul really upset. We had a little tussle in Estoril, Portugal, over that, you know. And I said, well, I don't want to do rehearsals because I don't want, like, suggestions from the actors. And it's proved to work really well.
One of the best I'm not even sure if it's a direction, and it's not answering the question either. But I like when, if you ask, how have you gone?
Keep going. No, that was interesting.
That's why she's right there.
Oh man, I forgot what I was going to talk about now. There's generally actors kind of say, "Oh, can I have one more?" They're always thinking, like, "Oh, I need another one. I'll do it." You know, when David's saying, "Yeah, I've got it. It's done." It's one of the greatest pieces of direction when you ask for one more and he's saying, like, do you think you can do better? It's actually I've never experienced another director asking that. And you're like, I don't know, well, I mean, I guess. And then so the question after that, I was like, well, are you questioning my judgment of this? And if you can possibly do another take after that, then you will do a better take. It has to happen. That has nothing to do with the question, I'm sorry.
I can bring it back. I'll bring it back. David does do an extensive block before you start shooting the scene. So you arrive on set and you work out, you run through the scene. It's basically like a mini rehearsal before the crew comes into light and before the crew watches the scene to figure out the lighting. So you do, it's not as if the cameras are hoisted and you walk onto set and you just start rolling it. There's a lot of thought behind it, even though there's no extensive rehearsal.
Yeah, and it's actually better than rehearsal in a way. I mean, the way Paul obviously rehearses has done terrible damage to his work. Because it's not, you know, normally you sit around a table and I think that's how it works. It's like in theater, you sit around the table and you read the script to each other and you discuss it and you analyze each other's, I think that's how it works. I've only done it once, and I found it to be totally counterproductive because when we went on the set, everything changed.
That goes away.
The dynamism, you know, you were in your costumes, you're on location, you're with all the actors, which you rarely have all together, by the way. In this movie, we really couldn't have rehearsed a lot because the actors, I mean, literally, Juliette Binoche flew in for 2 days, did her scenes and left. Mathieu Almeric was there for 1 day. So there really was no chance to rehearse. But anyway, I find that just when you're blocking it, you're asking the actor to be involved in the choreography of the scene, the way it moves, the shape of it, and it's at that moment you're there with the actors right on your real where you're going to shoot it, and that is enough rehearsal for me. And you get enough, but it's not going to. You still don't spoil the spontaneity of it. You can still surprise each other. Maybe somebody could tell me that there are other ways of working. Probably, maybe.
Wow, man, no, I agree with everything you just said. No, you're right. It's true. It's a funny, weird line because I've done it where we have rehearsed a lot, and it can oftentimes really kill it. And I think with something like this, it could have really killed it badly because this language needed to stay lively.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth from Toronto, over here. This question is for Paul and Rob, and it's a two-part question. The first question is, what do you like about Canadians? And the second question is, what do you find weird or quirky about Canadians?
I think you people are fucking weird. Actually, really good. I think that's what I like, and I also think it's weird. You people are dark, messed up, weird people. No, it's fascinating. It's true. I mean, I've done a couple of Canadian movies, and they're two of the most fucked up, dark movies I've done. With really messed up, weird characters, and there's something really dark, and I like that, actually. There's actually something... When you guys drop the whole nice thing that you do really well, you're all really dark and weird. And I'm really serious. I like that.
Really?
What was the other movie? I'm just curious. Just how I'm going to have this conversation.
I did a movie called Barney's Version. That was but that's a really dark character in that thing. So, Rob?
I really like Canadian.
That's a good start.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, well, Canadians vary. There's the East Coast and the West Coast Canadians. They have a very different opinion than both.
Elaborate.
I don't necessarily know if I want to reveal. But I really liked working in Toronto. I like Torontonians. No, it was fun. It's a cool city. I think I like it.
So enough about Canadian narcissism. Question for the actors, and of course kudos to Juliette, who's not here, and Jay, who are brilliant in the film and led by the illustrious David Cronenberg. A question, I don't know, Robert and Paul, that last scene and Up Against the Giant, we touched on Barney's version in the last question, but here's, one of our most brilliant actors, Paul Giamatti, I think we all love. What was that? We love you too, Robert, but come on, Paul. I think just to have a bit of a conversation about that last scene, which is kind of that ending on that final note and the intensity as the actors and the story and coming together and the challenge. Anyone to take the mic and talk a bit about the story
ending in the film on that final note? Anyone who wasn't killed up to this point. Kevin?
It was an intense. The best piece of direction that David gave me the whole time, and one thing he said to me was, "This is the climax."